The Lost Book of Enki, the Ninth Tablet. In the days of Lumak did Marduk and the Ajiji with earthlings intermarry. In those days on earth the hardships were increasing. In those days on Lamu with dryness and dust was the planet enveloped. The Anunnaki who decree the fates, Enlil and Enki and Ninmah, with each other consulted. What conditions on earth and on Lamu were altering? They wondered. On the sun flaring they observed. In the net forces of earth and Lamu there were disruptions. In the Abzu, at the tip of the white land facing, instruments for observing they installed. In the charge of Nergal, the son of Enki, and his spouse, Ereshkigal, the instruments were put. To the land beyond the seas Ninruta was assigned, in the mountain land a bond heaven-earth to establish. On Lamu the Ajiji were restless. To pacify them Marduk was the task given. Until what are the hardships causing, the way station on Lamu must be kept, so too Marduk the leader said. The three who the fates decree with each other consulted. They looked at each other. How old the others are, each one of the others thought. Enki, who the death of Adapa was grieving, was the first one to speak. More than 100 shars since my arrival has passed. To his brother and sister he said, I was then a dashing leader, now bearded, tired, and old I am. An enthusiastic hero I was, for command and adventure ready, Enlil then said. Now I have children who have children, all on earth born. Old on earth we become, but those on earth born are even older sooner. So did Enlil to his brother and sister ruefully say. As for me, an old sheep they call me, so did Ninmah wistfully say. While the others have been coming and going, turns on earth to serve taking. We the leaders have stayed and stayed. Perchance it is time to leave, so did Enlil say. Of that did I often wonder, to them Enki was saying. Each time one of us three to revisit Nibiru wished, word from Nibiru always our coming thereto prevented. Of that I too did wonder, Enlil was saying. It is a thing on Nibiru, a thing on earth. Perchance the life cycles that differ it concerns, so was Ninmah saying. To watch and see what transpires the three leaders decided. At that time, fate, or was it destiny, in its hands the matters took. For it came to pass that soon thereafter Marduk to his father Enki came. A matter of gravity with his father Enki to discuss he wished. Upon the earth the three sons of Enlil spouses have chosen. Ninruta, Bau, of Anu a young daughter, has espoused. Nanar has chosen Ningal. Ishkur, Shala, has taken. By Nergal your son Ereshkigal of Enlil a granddaughter, as a spouse was taken. By threats to kill her, her consent from her was extracted. To await my espousal, being your firstborn, Nergal did not await. The other four indifferents my espousal are awaiting. A bride I wish to choose, to have a spouse, it is my desire, so did Marduk to his father Enki say. Your words happy make me, Enki to Marduk was saying. Your mother too shall rejoice. To hold his words to Ninki, Marduk with a raised hand to his father motioned. Is she one of the young ones who heal and sorcerer give, Enki went on to ask. A descendant of Adapa she is, of earth, not Nibiru she is, Marduk softly whispered. With a puzzled look, Enki was speechless. Then, uncontrolled words, he shouted, A prince of Nibiru? A firstborn to secession entitled? An earthling will espouse? Not an earthling, but your own offspring, to him Marduk said. A daughter of Enki, who to heaven was taken, she is. Sarpanit is her name. Enki, his spouse Ninki, summoned. To her what with Marduk transpired he related. To Ninki, his mother, Marduk, his heart's desire repeated, and said, When Enki with me was journeying, and of heaven and earth him I was teaching, what my father once had said, I with my own eyes witnessed. Step by step on this planet a primitive being, one like us to be, we have created. In our image and in our likeness civilized earthling is, except for the long life, he is we. A daughter of Enki my fancy caught, her to espouse I wish. Ninki her son's words pondered. And the maiden, does she your gaze appreciate? So did she, Marduk asked. Indeed she does, Marduk to his mother said. This is not the matter to consider, Enki with a raised voice said. If our son this shall do to Nibiru with his spouse, he would never go. His princely rights on Nibiru he forever will forsake. To this Marduk with a bitter laughter responded, My rights on Nibiru are non-existent. Even on earth my rights as the firstborn have been trampled. This indeed is my decision. From prince a king on earth become, the master of this planet. Let it so be, Ninki said. Let it so be, Enki also said. They summoned Matushal, the bride's brother. Of Marduk wished, they him told. Humbled, but with joy overwhelmed, Matushal was. Let it so be, he said. When of the decision Enlil was told, with fury he was seized. It was one thing for the father with earthlings intercourse have, it is another matter for the son of an earthling to espouse, lordship on her to bestow. When Ninmah of the matter was told, greatly disappointed she was. Marduk any maiden of ours could espouse, even from my own daughters by Enki he could choose. Half-sisters, as is the royal custom, he could espouse, so did Ninmah say. With fury Enlil to Anu on Nibiru, of the matter words beamed up. Too far has this behavior gone, it cannot be allowed, to Anu the king Enlil said. On Nibiru Anu, the counselor summons the matter with urgency to discuss. In the rule books of such a matter no rule they found. Anu the savants also summoned the matter's consequences to discuss. On Nibiru Adapa, the maiden's progenitor, could not stay. To Anu they were saying, Therefore to return to Nibiru with her, Marduk forever must be barred. Indeed, having to earth cycles become accustomed, even without her Marduk's return impossible might be. So were the savants to Anu saying. With that the counselors too agreed. Let the decision to earth be beamed, Anu was saying. Marduk marry can. But on Nibiru a prince he shall no more be. The decision by Enki and Marduk was accepted. Enlil too, to the word from Nibiru bowed. Let there be a wedding, celebration and Eridu let it be, Ninki to them said. In the Eden Marduk and his bride cannot stay, Enlil the commander announced. Let us to Marduk and his bride a wedding gift make, a domain of their own away from the Eden in another land, so did Enki to Enlil say. Of Marduk being sent away, Enlil with consent to himself was thinking. To what land, of what domain are you speaking, Enlil, to his brother Enki said. A domain above the Abzu, and the land that the upper sea reaches, one that by waters from the Eden is separated, that by ships can be reached. So did Enki to Enlil say. Let it so be, Enlil said. In Eridu a wedding celebration for Ninki, for Marduk and Sarpanit arranged. Her people, by the sound of the copper drum, the ceremony announced. With 7 tambourines, her sisters, the bride to her spouse presented. A great multitude of civilized earthlings in Eridu assembled. Like a coronation to them the wedding was. Young Anunnaki also attended. Ijiji from Lamu in great numbers came. To celebrate our leader's wedding of Nibiru and earth a union. To witness we came. So did the Ajiji, their rival in large numbers explain. Now this is the account of how the Ajiji, the daughters of the earthlings, abducted, and how afflictions followed, and Zisutra oddly was born. In a great number did the Ajiji from Lamu to earth come. Only 1/3 of them on Lamu stayed. To earth came 200, to be with their leader Marduk. His wedding celebration to attend was their explanation. Unbeknownst to Enki and Enlil was their secret. To abduct and have conjugation was their plot. Unbeknownst to the leaders on earth, a multitude of the Ajiji on Lamu got together. What to Marduk permitted is, from us too should not be deprived. To each other they said. Enough of suffering and loneliness, of not offspring ever having, was their slogan. During their comings and goings between Lamu and earth, the daughters of the earthlings, the Adapati females, as them they called, they saw, and after them they lusted, and to each other the plotters said, Come, let us choose wives from among the Adapati females and children beget. One among them, Shamgaz his name was, their leader became. Even if none of you agrees, I alone the deed shall do, to the others he said. If a penalty For this sin shall be imposed, I alone, for all of you shall it bear. One by one, others in the plot joined together, by an oath together to do it they swore. By the time of Marduk's wedding, 200 of them on the landing place descended. Upon the great platform in the cedar mountains they came down. From there to Eridu they journeyed, among the toiling earthlings they passed. Together with the earthlings, throng in Eridu they arrived. After the wedding ceremony of Marduk and Sarpanet had taken place, by a signal prearranged Shamgaz to the others a sign gave. An earthling maiden, each one of the Ajiji seized, by force they them abducted. To the landing place in the cedar mountains the Ajiji with the females went, and to a stronghold the place they made. To the leaders a challenge they issued. Enough of deprivation and not having offspring, the Adapati daughters to marry we wish. Your blessing to this you must give, else by fire all on earth destroy we will. Alarmed the leaders were. Of Marduk the Ajiji commander, charge to take they demanded. If in the matter I a solution must seek, with the Ajiji my heart in agreement is. So did Marduk to the others say. What I have done from them cannot be deprived. Enki and Ninmah their heads shook. With begrudging agreement they voiced. Only Enlil was enraged without pacification. One evil deed by another has been followed. Fornication from Enki and Marduk the Ajiji have adopted. Our pride and sacred mission to the winds have been abandoned. By our own hands this planet with earthlings multitude shall be overrun. With much disgust was Enlil speaking. Let the Ajiji and their females from earth depart. On Lamu conditions unbearable have become. Surviving is not possible, so did Marduk to Enlil and Enki say. In the Eden they cannot remain. Enlil with anger shouted. With much disgust the gathering he left. In his heart things against Marduk and his earthlings was Enlil plotting. Upon the landing platform in the cedar mountains were the Ajiji and their females secluded. Children there to them were born. Children of the rocket ships they were called. Marduk and Sarpanet his spouse also had children. Asar and Satu were the first two sons called. To the domain above the Abzu, to him and Sarpanet granted Marduk the Ajiji invited. To dwell in 2 cities that for his sons he had built, Marduk the Ajiji summoned. Some of the Ajiji and their offspring to the domain in the dark-hued land came. On the landing platform in the cedar mountains Shamgaz and others did remain. To the far east lands of high mountains some of their offspring went. How Marduk of earthlings his strength increases, Ninruta carefully observed. What are Enki and Marduk scheming? To his father Enlil Ninruta said. The earth by the earthlings inherit will be, Enlil to Ninruta said. Go, the offsprings of Cain find, with them a domain of your own prepare. To the other side of earth Ninruta went. The offspring of Cain he found. How tools to make and music to play he them taught. How in mining to engage and smelt and refine he showed them. How to build rafts of balsam trees he showed them. To cross a great sea he them guided. In a new land a domain they established. A city with twin towers there they built. A domain beyond the seas it was. The mountain land of the new bond heaven earth it was not. In the Eden Lumok was the workmaster. Quotas to enforce was his duty. The earthlings' rations to reduce was his task. His spouse, Batanash, the daughter of Lumok's father's brother she was. Of a beauty outstanding she was. By her beauty was Enki charmed. Enki to his son Marduk a word did send. To your domain Lumok do summon. How by earthlings a city to build there him teach. And when Lumok to the domain of Marduk was summoned, to the household of Ninmah in Shurabak, the haven city, his spouse Batanash he brought. From the angry earthling masses protected and safe to be. Thereafter Enki his sister Ninmah in Shurabak was quick to visit. On the roof of a dwelling when Batanash was bathing, Enki by her loins took hold. He kissed her, his semen into her womb he poured. With a child Batanash was. Her belly was truly swelling. To Lumok from Shurabak word was sent. To the Eden return, a son you have. To the Eden Shurabak Lumok returned. To him Batanash the sun showed. White as the snow his skin was, the color of wool was his hair. Like the skies were his eyes, in a brilliance were his eyes shining. Amazed and frightened was Lumok. To his father, Matushal, he hurried. A son unlike an earthling to Batanash was born. By this birth greatly puzzled I am. Matushal to Batanash came. The newborn boy he saw, by his likeness amazed he was. Is one of the Ajiji the boy's father? Of Batanash, Matushal the truth demanded. To Lumok, your spouse, whether this boy his son is, the truth reveal. None of the Ajiji is the boy's father. Of this upon my life I swear. So did Batanash him answer. To his son Lumok Matushal then turned, a calming arm on his shoulder he put. A mystery the boy is, but in his oddness an omen to you is revealed. Unique he is, for a task unique by destiny he was chosen. What that task is, I know not, in time appropriate, known it shall become. So was Matushal to his son Lumok saying. To what on earth was transpiring he was alluding. In those days the sufferings on earth were increasing. The days colder grew, the skies their rains were holding back. Fields their crops diminished, and the sheepfolds ewe lambs were few. Let the son to you born, unusual as he is, an omen be that a respite is coming. So did Matushal to his son Lumok say. Let respite be his name. To Matushal and Lumok Batanash, her son's secret did not reveal. Zesudra, he of long, bright life days, she called him, and Shurabak he was raised. Ninma on the child her protection and affection bestowed. Of much understanding he was endowed, with knowledge he was by her provided. Enki the child greatly adored. To read the writings of Adapa him he taught. The priestly rites, how to observe and perform the boy as a young man learned. In the 110th Shar was the Sutra born. In Shubak he grew up and espoused Emzara, and she bore him 3 sons. In his days the sufferings on earth intensified, plagues and starvations the earth afflicted. Now this is the account of earth's tribulations before the deluge, and how the mysterious Galzu decisions of life and death in secret guided. By the conjugations of Ajiji and the earthling daughters was Enlil greatly disturbed. By Marduk's espousal of an earthling female, Enlil was much distraught. In his eyes the Anunnaki mission to earth had become perverted. To him the howling, shouting earthling masses anathema became. Oppressive the pronouncements of the earthlings have become. The conjugations of sleep deprive me. So did Enlil to the other leaders say. In the days of Zisutra, plagues and pestilence the earth afflicted. Aches, dizziness, chills, fevers, the earthlings overwhelmed. Let us the earthlings cure, teach, how themselves to remedy to learn. So did Ninma say. This by decree I forbid, Enlil to her pleas retorted. In the lands whereto the earthlings have spread, waters from their sources did not rise. The earth shut its womb, vegetation did not sprout. Let us the earthlings pond and canal building teach, let them from the seas fish and sustenance attain. So did Enki to the other leaders say. This by decree I forbid, Enlil to Enki said. Let the earthlings by hunger and pestilence perish. For 1 Shar the earthlings ate the grasses of the fields. For the 2nd Shar, the 3rd Shar, the vengeance of Enlil they suffered. And Shurabak, Zesutra's city, the suffering unbearable was becoming. To Eridu, Zesutra of the earthlings, a spokesman journeyed. To the house of the Lord Enki he made his way. By the name of his Lord he called. For help and salvation to him he pleaded. Enki by Enlil's decree was bound. In those days the Anunnaki for their own surviving were concerned. Their own rations were diminished. By earth's changes they themselves afflicted became. On earth, as on Lamu, the seasons their regularity lost. For 1 Shar, for 2 Shars, from Nibiru the heavenly circuits were studied. Oddities in the planetary destinies from Nibiru were observed. On the sun's face black spots were appearing. From its face flames shot up. Kishar also was misbehaving. its host its footings lost. Dizzying were their circuits. The hammered bracelet was, by unseen net forces, pulled and pushed. For reasons unfathomable, the sun its family was upsetting. The destinies of the celestials by unsavory fates were overtaken. On Nibiru the savants alarmed raised. In the public squares the people gathered. The Creator of all, to primordial days, the heavens, is returning. Angry is the Creator of all. Voices from amongst the people shouted. On earth the tribulations were increasing, fear and famine, their heads reared. For 3 shars, for 4 shars, the instruments with Whiteland facing were observed. By Nergal and Ereshkigal, odd rumblings in the Whiteland snows were recorded. The snow ice that the Whiteland covers to sliding has taken, so did they from Abzu's tip report. And the land beyond the seas, Ninruta in his haven, foretelling instruments established. Quakes and jitters at the earth's bottom with the instruments he noticed. An odd matter is afoot, so did Enlil to Anu on Nibiru words of alarm send. For the 5th shar, for the 6th shar, the phenomena gained strength. On Nibiru the savants an alarm raised, of calamities to the king they forewarnings gave. The next time Nibiru the sun shall be nearing, earth to Nibiru's net forces exposed shall be. Lamu in its circuits on the sun's other side shall a station take. From the net forces of Nibiru earth in the heavens protection shall not have. Kishar and its hosts agitated shall be. Lamu shall also shake and wobble. In earth's great below, the snow ice of the white land its footing is losing. The next time Nibiru the closest to earth shall approach, the snow ice off the white land surface shall come a-sliding. A watery calamity it shall cause. By a huge wave, a deluge, the earth will be overwhelmed. On Nibiru great was the consternation, uncertain about Nibiru's own fate. Kings, savants, and counselors about earth and Lamu also greatly worried. The king and the counselors a decision made, for evacuating earth and Lamu to prepare. In the Abzu the gold mine shut down, therefrom the Anunnaki to the Eden came. In bad Tiberias smelting and refining ceased, all gold to Nibiru was lofted. Empty, for evacuating ready, a fleet of fast celestial chariots to earth returned. On Nibiru the heavenly signs were watched, on earth the tremors recorded were. It was at that time that from one of the celestial chariots a white-haired Anunnaki stepped off. Galzu, great knower was his name. With steps majestic to Enlil his way he made. To him a sealed message from Anu he presented. I am Galzu, emissary plenipotentiary of king and council to Enlil, he said. By his coming Enlil was surprised. No word from Anu of that did forecome. Enlil the seal of Anu examined. Unbroken and authentic it was. In Nibiru key the message tablet was read. Its encoding was trustworthy. From king and council Galzu speaks. His words are my command. So did the message from Anu state. That Enki and Ninma be also summoned was Galzu's request. When they came to Ninma, Galzu pleasantly smiled. One of the same school and age we are, to her he said. This Ninma could not recall. The emissary was as young as a son. She was as his olden mother. Simple is the explanation, Galzu to her said. By our winter slumber, life cycles, it is caused. Indeed, this matter is of my mission a part. About the evacuation, it is a secret. Ever since Dumunzi on Nibiru had stayed, returning Anunnaki on Nibiru examined were, those who on earth the longest stayed, by the returning harshly were afflicted. Their bodies to Nibiru cycles were accustomed no longer. Their sleep was disrupted, their eyesight was failing. The net force of Nibiru weighted their walk. Their minds were also afflicted, as sons were older than the parents they had left. Death, my comrades, to the returnees quickly came. Of that I am here a warning to give. The 3 leaders on earth the longest, by the words silent became. Ninma was the first to speak. That much was to be expected, she was saying. Enki, the wise one, to her words consented. That much was clear, he said. Enlil with anger was seized. Before the earthlings like us were becoming, now we as earthlings have become to this planet imprisoned. This whole mission to a nightmare turn. By Enki and his earthlings, from masters, slaves we were made. To the outburst Galzu with compassion listened. Indeed, much there is to ponder, he said. On Nibiru, much thinking and soul-searching, deep questions were raising. Should Nibiru to its fate be left, whatever by the Creator of all intended to be let to happen? Or was the coming to earth by the Creator of all conceived, and we only unwitting emissaries? Of that, my comrades, the debate will continue, so was Galzu to them saying. Now this is the secret command from Nibiru. The three of you on earth will remain, only to die, to Nibiru you will return. In celestial chariots, the earth encircling, the calamity you shall outwait. To each of the other Anunnaki a choice to leave or the calamity outwait must be given. The Ajiji, who earthlings espouse, must between departure and spouses choose. No earthling, Marduk Sarpanit included, to Nibiru to journey is allowed. For all who stay and what happens see, in celestial chariots they safely must seek. As for all the others to depart for Nibiru, forthwith they ready must be. So did Galzu Nibiru's commands to the leaders in secret reveal. Now this is the account of how the Anunnaki to abandon earth decided, and how an oath they took mankind to let in the deluge perish. In Nibiru Ki and Lil a council of Anunnaki and Ajiji commanders summoned. The leaders' sons of their children also were present. Words of the impending calamity and Lil to them as a secret revealed. To a bitter end earth mission has come, to them he solemnly said. All who to leave wish in celestial boats that are ready to Nibiru will be evacuated. But if earthling spouses they have, without the spouses they must leave. Ajiji, who to their spouses and offspring attached are, let them to the highest peaks on earth escape. As for a few of us Anunnaki who will choose to stay in boats of heaven and earth's skies, we will remain. The calamity to outwait, the fate of earth to witness. As the commander, I shall be the first one to stay, so was Enlil saying. By their own choice will be the others. With my father I choose to stay, the calamity to face, so did Ninruta announce. To the lands beyond the oceans, after the deluge I will return. Nanar and Lil's on earth firstborn, an odd wish announced. The deluge to outwait not in earth's skies, but on the moon, that was his wish. Enki an eyebrow raised, and Lil, though puzzled, approved. Ishkur, and Lil's youngest, to remain on earth with his father, his decision made. Utu and Inanna, Nanar's children, who on earth were born, to stay declared. Enki and Ninki to stay, and earth not abandoned chose. Proudly they so announced. The Ajiji and Sarpanit I shall not desert, Marduk with anger stated. One by one, Enki's other sons their choice to stay announced. Nergal and Gibil, Nengal and Ningishzida, and Damunzi too. All eyes to Ninmah then turned. With pride her choice to stay she declared. My life work is here. The earthlings, my created, I shall not abandon. By her words Anunnaki and Ajiji to a clamor were stirred. About the earthlings' fate they inquired. Let the earthlings for the abominations perish, so did Enlil proclaim. A wondrous being by us was created, by us saved it must be, Enki to Enlil shouted. To this Enlil with his own shouted words retorted. From the very beginning, at every turn, the decision by you modified were. To primitive workers procreating you gave, to them knowing you endowed. The powers of the Creator of all into your hands you have taken. Thereafter, even that by abominations you fouled. With fornications, Adapa you conceived. Understanding to his line you gave. His offspring to the heavens you have taken. Our wisdom with them you shared. Every rule you have broken. Decisions and commands you ignored. Because of you, by a civilized earthling, brother a brother murdered. Because of Marduk, your son the Ajiji, like him with earthlings intermarried. Who is lordly from Nibiru, to whom the earth alone belongs, to no one is no longer known. Enough, enough to all of that I say. The abominations cannot continue. Now that a calamity by destiny unknown has been ordained, let what must happen, happen, so did Enlil angrily proclaim. that all leaders solemnly swear to let events unhindered occur, of all Enlil demanded. First to take the oath of silence was Ninruta, others of Enlil's side followed. Nergal of Enki's sons was the first to take the oath, others of Enki's sons followed. To your command I bow, Marduk to Enlil said, but of what worth is the swearing? If Ajiji their spouses will abandon, would not the fear among the earthlings spread? Ninma was in tears, the words of the oath she faintly whispered. Enlil at his brother Enki gazed. It is the wish of king and council, to him he said. Why will you bind me with an oath, Enki, his brother Enlil asked. The decision by you was made, on earth it is a commandment. The floodwaters I cannot attest, the earthlings' multitudes I cannot save. To what oath to bind me you therefore desire? So did Enki, his brother, ask. To let it all happen as if by fate decreed? Let it as Enlil's decision be known. On Enlil alone let the responsibility forever rest, so did Enki to all pronounce. Then Enki from the assembly departed. Marduk with him also left. With quick words of command, Enlil the assembly to order brought. Task for what was to be done, he with firm decision assigned. Between those who will depart and those who will stay the groupings arranged. Places for assembly to designate, equipment to collect, chariots to assign. First to depart were those who to Nibiru were returning. With much embracing and the locking of arms and joy mixed with sorrow the celestial boats were boarded. One after another the vehicles from Sipar roared aloft. At first those left behind journey safely, shouted, then muted were the cries. After the launchings towards Nibiru completed were, the turn of Marduk and the Ajiji with earthling spouses came. Marduk them all on the landing place assembled. A choice to them he gave. With him and Sarpanit and 2 sons and the daughters to Lamu go, there the calamity outwait, or to distant mountain lands on earth disperse, a haven from the deluge to find. Enlil then of those who remained took account, by groupings to them chariots he assigned. Ninruta to the mountain land beyond the oceans Enlil directed, on earth's rumblings to report. To Nergal and Erishgagal the task, the white lens, to watch Enlil assigned. To guard against an onrush of earthlings, to Ishkur the task Enlil gave. To bar access, barrier, and blot, to erect and bolster. Of all preparations, Sipar, the place of the celestial chariots, was the center. To Sipar Enlil the tablets of destiny from Nibiru moved. A temporary bond, heaven-earth, was there established. His brother Enki Enlil then addressed. To him he was thus saying, however, if ever the calamity might be survived, let all that had happened be remembered. Let us tablets of records in Sipar in the depths of the earth safely bury. Let what from one planet on another done in days to come uncovered be. Enki his brother's words with approving accepted. Emmys and other tablets in gold crests they stored. In the depths of the earth in Sipar from prosperity they buried. Thus ready for the signal to depart the leaders awaited. The approach of Nibiru in its great circuit with apprehension they watched. It was at that time of anxious awaiting that Enki his sister Ninma addressed. To her was Enki thus saying, in his preoccupation with the earthlings, of all other living creatures Enlil lost attention. When the avalanches of water sweeps over the land, other living creatures, some by us from Nibiru originated, most from earth itself evolved, in one sudden swoop to an extinction shall be doomed. Let us, you and me, their seed of life preserve, their life essences for safekeeping extract. Ninma, she who gave life, to the words of Enki favor gave. I shall do it in Shubak. You do so with the Abzu's living creatures. So to Enki she said. While the others sat idly waiting, Enki and Ninma a challenge task undertook. Ninma and Shurabak by some of her female assistants was helped. Enki by Ningish Zeta in the Abzu at the olden house of life was assisted. Male and female essences and life eggs they collected. Of each kind 2 by 2, 2 by 2, they, Shubak and the Abzu, preserved. For safekeeping while in Earth's circuit, to be taken, thereafter the living kinds to recombine. At that time word from Ninruta came, earth's rumblings ominous are. At that time word from Nergal and Irishkergal came, the white lands is shaken. In Sippar all the Anunnaki gathered, the day of the deluge they awaited.